Hey magical sparks, welcome back to my channel. It's Sparkle here, and today I have a very exciting video. So today's video is a little bit more different than usual because it's actually more of an art vlog. So we are going to be drawing on the very first page of my sketchbook, but also doing a whole other bunch of fun and creative things. So let's get started. The very first thing I wanted to do was to reorganize my pencil case, because just that feeling of having a reorganized pencil case just kind of puts me in the mood to draw. And if you're asking me why, the truth is even I don't know the answer. Also, you might have noticed that my desk looks a little bit more colorful than usual, because usually it's just a plain white desk, and that's because I got this brand new matte. Look at how pretty it is. I love it. And I also got this one for the other side. I'm in love with them both, so you might see them in future videos. Also, I took on a 4-day project to reorganize my entire art room, and here's how the art supply shelf turned out. Now, some people were asking for a video of how I start my sketchbook, and I'm so sorry. I already started this sketchbook and I was going to record my process. The only problem was I was feeling a little bit of art block, so I just decided to do some personal drawings, and here's how they turned out. Nice and simple. And in today's video, we're going to be working on the first page. But here's the problem. I genuinely don't know what to draw on the first page, so let's try and figure that out. I almost always have some kind of idea or some kind of sense of direction, but today was just one of those days where I was completely lost, and you know what? That's totally fine. So instead, I decided to take this opportunity to go ahead and open up this new mechanical pencil that I got and make just a very nice, quick and simple warm-up sketch. But of course, the very first thing we have to do is to try out our mechanical pencil. And I love it already. So it's pretty much the exact same size as my blue mechanical pencil, which is a 0.5. Only thing is it just feels a bit more thicker, like the barrel, and I love it. It's just really nice, you know, trying out a new art supply, even if it is just a mechanical pencil. I also ended up getting distracted, and I wanted to try out all the features of this pencil, and it's all so cool. The only thing I haven't figured out yet is exactly how to refill the pencil with more lead, but I guess I'll just research and find out. And now it's time for the second drawing. So I thought I would have to make a couple of sketches to finalize an idea of what to draw on the very first page. Turns out the very first sketch that I made ended up being my final idea. I still can't believe that. Like, I only made one sketch and I didn't try out any colors, but it just ended up working out. That's pretty crazy. But of course, we totally love that. I also got some new stationery and art supplies a couple of weeks ago that I still have not opened, so let's have a look. The very first thing is this cutting mat. The second thing was this big pen. It was actually a gift and it's so much fun to hold and to use. I love it so much. I got some PVA glue, a kneadable eraser set, a wooden paint palette which I have never ever used before, and this scrapbook because the paper is really thick on the inside, so maybe I can use it like a sketchbook. But not today, because the star of today's show is the one and the only air dry clay. So I have not used air dry clay in what has been, I think, a lot of years. I mean, I've used Play-Doh and I've used other types of clay, but not air dry clay. And the first thing I was shocked about was kind of just how messy it is, but we love that. We love a good mess, of course. So I took it out and it started to feel a bit wet. For some reason, I assumed that it would kind of feel like Play-Doh, but obviously it was sticking a little bit. So I went ahead, I washed my hands, then I got a paper towel, a spray bottle, and this little container to put the extra clay in. So just to clarify, I don't remember much about how to use air dry clay. I also did not know what I was going to make today. All I knew was that I got clay and I want to make something with clay, and I'm just gonna try and make something with clay. That's all the entire plan is, just to try and make something. It doesn't have to be functional, it doesn't have to look good, the process just has to be fun. So I started off by just getting a feel for the clay and just rolling it out and trying a bunch of different things. Then I decided that I would try to make a flower. So I made these little bowls and I thought I could attach them after they dried. But then I realized, how am I going to attach them after they dried? So that problem is one that we will deal with later. So for now, I just packed up the extra clay, and with the flower petals, I tried to kind of smooth out the edges and kind of just make it nice and like soft around the edges. And yeah, it was just lots of fun, like just touching the clay, playing with the clay, using the clay. It's just such a fun sensory experience. Like, I would say it was totally worth it. 10 out of 10. And now back to working on the very first page of our sketchbook. I love how I can just take the mat away and just be done with the cleaning up. It's so nice, so easy. And now let's actually work on the very first page. So starting it off, I wanted to make a sketch just so I could get the details out. I started sketching, but I didn't like the positioning of the character on the page. Like it felt like the character was a bit too much towards the left. So I got out my kneaded eraser, but it's getting really old, so I think it's time to open and use a new kneaded eraser. And at first it was a bit hard, but once you just kind of keep on kneading it and playing with it, it just eventually becomes softer. And now working on our final sketch. Every time I make a really big drawing or like an artwork, I'm always so nervous I'm gonna mess up the proportions because the sizing of the character is different, so I'm worried I might accidentally make some things too small, too big, too much to the left, too much to the right. So I tried to stay as careful as I could, and I think in the end it turned out looking alright. I also decided to go ahead and draw some nails on the character, and surprisingly that turned out alright as well, because usually it just ends up looking so weird, but today it ended up looking alright. Now I could start doing the coloring, but how about we just take a break instead? Now who remembers this Easter egg from one of my previous videos? Yes, that's the one that the company Artec sent me, and I still had one egg I hadn't colored, so I thought today would be the perfect chance for me to color it and just have some fun. So I started off with an abstract design, and I did not like how that was looking, so instead I went with a nice purple background and some cute pastel hearts, and I'm so happy with how that turned out. And here are some of the other Easter decorations I customized in the video where I tried out the Artec's 60A and 60B acrylic marker sets, and also here is our creation for today. Also, here is a drawing that I made just before all of this. So this drawing you might recognize from the short I posted this weekend, and here's how it turned out. It's a drawing of a girl with green hair. As I was working on the drawing, things didn't go completely as planned, but I think we managed to save it in the end, and I'm also just really proud of myself for not giving up. And now back to the very first page. So I decided to skip the line art for now and just go directly into the coloring. The only problem is this sketchbook is not a very thick sketchbook. It is not like really high GSM. I believe it's 110 GSM, so it's fairly thin. It's good for things like using pencils and everything, but when you're coloring a really big area like this with markers, I feel like there was just a really high chance of it getting patchy, and it did get patchy. So then I decided to bring out the acrylic markers to save the day. I had some trouble with the skin tone because I couldn't find the right skin tones in the marker set, so I ended up changing it completely, and I was a little bit worried at this point about how it's going to turn out and just how everything is going to go, but let's just trust the process. This drawing might look a little bit scary right now, but just wait and see how it turns out at the end. So now it's time for another break and some more clay time. So at this point, I tried gluing on these pieces together off screen with multiple types of glues, and it did not work. So this time I decided to kind of like make a plate, kind of like a base to put the flowers on. But at the same time, I was like so unsure if this was even going to work, because at this point it had been 24 hours since I made the flower and petals, and it was almost completely dry, at least dry to the touch, and I wasn't sure if I could even get it to stick. But thankfully, it did work out. So I started off by rolling out the clay into a nice flat shape. Then I went ahead and I got this little paper cup, and I used it to kind of like measure out a circle shape. And then I cut around it and took off the excess. I smoothed out the edges, or at least I tried my best to smooth out the edges with some water and my finger. I could have used a brush, but I felt like my finger would just kind of help guide it into a softer position. Then I tried making this thing that I've seen many people do. It's called like slip and score. So I'm not really sure about this because, like I said, I haven't used this type of like air dry clay in a very long time. But from what I have seen, it's kind of this technique where you score the clay by kind of like putting these little marks on it with like something sharp. Then you use the slip, which is just a mixture of clay and water, to kind of act like a glue to bind the two pieces together. Again, I'm not an expert, and also the flower petals had already dried at this point, so I was not even sure if this was going to work or if I had mixed up the slip properly, but I guess we'll find out. Now I just quickly brushed off my desk, And I also got this recently. It's a pen cup holder, like a pen container, and it's so cute. It's like My Melody themed. But here's the issue. I don't know what to put in this because I tried putting in some art supplies, but whatever I put in, it kind of like covered up the design and you couldn't really see the cute design on the outside. So if you guys have like any kind of ideas or suggestions, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I would really appreciate it. And that reminds me, if you have been watching this far into the video, and I mean 10 minutes and 33 seconds without skipping or fast forwarding, can I just say, like, I really appreciate that. And if you'd like to let me know that you made it this far without skipping or fast forwarding, feel free to comment this emoji down below. Thank you so much once again. So back to the drawing. Like I said, I didn't actually have a specific color palette in mind when I was planning this or when I started this, but I kind of just went with the flow, and I guess the color palette ended up being purple, pink, and orange, which I don't think I've done that in quite a long time. Like, I've done purple, pink, and blue, and purple, blue, and green, but I haven't really combined purple with orange. So I'm pretty happy with how this looks. The entire aesthetic looks so soft and glowy, which actually reminds me, I was thinking of adding like a glowy kind of effect, like as if there's light coming from the star that the character's touching. And I did try, but I wasn't really sure how to go about it, so eventually I decided to just keep it nice and simple and not do the glowy technique. I feel like if I was trying to do the same thing with digital art, I could probably do it, but with traditional art, I'm just not really sure how to go about doing it, which is fine. There's always something that we can learn. And now back to our little clay project. It is finally dry, but as you can see, there are some cracks that have kind of formed, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because I didn't use the slip properly, or maybe I used too much water. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's fine. This was just a very fun little project. It actually doesn't really serve any kind of functional use. Like, I guess it could be used as a paperweight, but I just made it for the fun of making something, and in the end, I had fun making it, and now I'm having fun holding it in my hand. I'm so happy with the simplistic color palette as well, and I don't know, I'm just really proud of it. Like, I made something physical that I can physically hold, and I don't know, it's just something that I'm really happy about. And now the time has come to finally wrap up our drawing. Well, not wrap it up, but like wrap up the process of finishing this drawing. So I used a combination of different art supplies. So for this page, obviously, I started off by using alcohol-based markers, then I used acrylic paint pens. I also used pencils, ballpoint pens, fine liners. I just used a combination of different things, and I really like the style of this drawing. It just feels so soft and nice, and I just really want to try drawing with this kind of style at some point in the future as well. The only thing is that it is a tiny bit time-consuming, but maybe I could do a bit of trial and error to find some way where I can kind of get similar results and enjoy the process, but also kind of just work a bit more efficiently. Also, we are signing off the drawing, and I think we all know what that means, right? And don't worry if you don't know, it pretty much means the drawing process is done. So now I'm just going ahead and adding the date down below that I started the sketchbook, and then I wrote sketchbook on top. I went ahead and actually wrote out the words with a white gel pen, just so that I can make sure the positioning is okay. Then I went over it with the acrylic paint pen, and I added some white gel pen highlights. And with that, we are officially done. So that is not the drawing that we made today, but that is the drawing that I made in my last video where I customized the first page of my sketchbook. And the reason I'm showing you this is because, can you see how similar the styles are? That's the kind of style that I love, and that's the kind of style that I really want to practice using in the future. So here is how our final drawing turned out for the very first page of my sketchbook. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And now you might have thought the video is done right there, but actually, hold on, we haven't actually customized the front cover of this sketchbook. So I don't want to make it too complicated because I love the color of the sketchbook. Instead, I decided to keep it nice and simple, and I just stuck a sticker on top. And then, of course, I glued in this little sheet of information about this sketchbook on the page where I drafted my idea for the first page, just as a memory. And of course, here is the final result of our clay project. I went ahead and I added some PVA glue mixed with water to kind of like provide a nice glossy coating and kind of just help it to last longer. And here's how that turned out. It's so shiny and so pretty, and I absolutely love it. And with that, our video for today is coming to an end. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed filming it and editing it. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys all have a fabulous day. Stay awesome as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!